78 million items in the physical collections and many more in digital form, the library remains the steward of the largest collection of information and researches ever assembled, not as a memorial, but as a living source of knowledge and creativity for Congress and the betterment of all. I'd like to express my gratitude for the ongoing support of the library from Congress and this committee in particular for funding our IT investments. Also, special thanks for your support of the visitor experience. We will open the first permanent Treasures Gallery in June of this year and expect that the youth center, called The Source, will open in 2025 in time for the nation's semi-quincentennial in 2026. I come before you today to discuss the Library of Congress's fiscal 2025 appropriations request for $943.7 million, a 5.1 increase over the library's 2024 appropriation. This request includes 38.9 mandatory millions in pay and price level increases, and the remaining increases represent critical investments necessary to meet the library's mission. And recognizing that economic conditions are different from when they were 8 years ago when I became librarian, we are requesting the lowest programmatic increase in my tenure. The two new requests for fiscal 2025 further the goals of the library's new strategic plan for FY 24-28, a library for all, to expand access, enhance services, strengthen our capacity, and foster innovation. We're asking first for an investment to strengthen the library's infrastructure, including staff with advanced skills to support digital collections processing and acquisition as we move increasingly toward digital as the preferred format. This includes digital content in copyright deposits, which are central to building our collections. The second request supports collections handling for expanded exhibit spaces in the Thomas Jefferson Building that will display over 1,000 items worth millions of dollars, a 50% increase over the previous year's exhibit capacity. This request ensures that exhibit items are secure and supported by an appropriate level of trained and experienced staff. And in keeping with our strategic goals, we are also resubmitting 3 vital requests that were not funded in fiscal 2024. The first will enable both CRS and the Office of the Chief Information Officer to expand CRS's quantitative data analysis and policy simulation capacity to analyze, quote, big data for congressional clients. The second request will enable the library to meet the growing demands for accessibility services to improve access to our digital products, materials, and services for Americans with disabilities. The third resubmission, expanded contracts and grant staffing as we face an attrition as high as 28% with heavier workloads and increasingly complex contracts, particularly for IT-related acquisitions. So in summary, the library's 2025 congressional budget justification advances necessary work initiated in previous years to move the library forward while preserving our world-class resources and making them, most importantly, accessible for those who will come after us. I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. I now recognize Mr. DePietro for a summary of your written testimony.
Good morning. Chairman Valdeo, Ranking Member Espiat, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on the Architect of the Capitol's fiscal year 2025 budget request. I would also like to thank members of your staff, particularly Michelle Reinschuttle and Faye Cobb, for their expertise, solution-mindedness, and consistent professionalism. I welcome this opportunity to share more about the agency's work in preserving the historic buildings and grounds that inspire our nation and in serving the 30,000 daily occupants and 3 million annual visitors to the Capitol campus. To begin, I would like to acknowledge and express my gratitude to the 2,400 dedicated AOC employees who work diligently to support the daily operations of Congress, the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, and the many other AOC-managed locations, all of which requires the daily care for the 18.4 million square feet of historic facilities, 570 acres of grounds, and thousands of works of art that make up our historic campus. In addition to supporting the daily operations of Congress, the Architect of the Capitol inspires the public by providing tours and exhibits of the U.S. Capitol, the surrounding grounds, and the U.S. Botanic Garden. Our staff remains committed to preserving and maintaining the historic buildings, monuments, art, and gardens on the campus. While the commission works through the process of appointing a permanent architect, I'm honored to serve in this interim role, leading the women and men who work tirelessly to accomplish our mission. I am continually amazed by their professionalism and dedication of service. The AOC's $1.03 billion fiscal year 2025 budget request is focused on three key priorities: physical security, life safety, and critical infrastructure needs of the Capitol campus. Additionally, this budget ensures adequate funding is available for the staffing levels necessary to oversee our planning and project management needs and to deliver quality services to Congress. Through the agency's strategic initiatives, we continue our commitment to offering world-class service and doing the deep work that leads to transformational growth. This focus enables the agency to build a safer, more inclusive, and more effective workplace. Across the agency, we dedicate time and attention to safety training, processes, procedures, and operations. This budget request recognizes these essential measures with a concentrated effort to avoid hazards, risks, and interruptions. Security is a key priority. With the support of this subcommittee and oversight committees, the AOC has made significant progress to improve the security posture across the campus. The AOC also coordinates daily with our partners across the campus to improve security for staff and visitors. Improving physical security is imperative to the operation of the campus, and we will continue to balance and maintain critical infrastructure while remaining prepared to respond to any new developments. The critical infrastructure needs of the Capitol campus also remain a top priority. AOC employees work behind the scenes day and night to provide Congress, the Supreme Court, and the library with facilities and infrastructure to conduct their business. The AOC is committed to a long-term approach to facilities management focused on maintaining and preserving the Capitol campus while also modernizing these facilities. The aging infrastructure comes with many challenges. The AOC is developing an enterprise asset management system that will provide a structured approach for the development, coordination, and control of asset-related activities across their life cycle. This will enable centralized asset monitoring, forecast resource requirements, and translate risks into asset management plans, and effectively prioritize condition-based facility maintenance. Additionally, an established asset management system will provide additional detail to improve data-driven fiscal decisions and prioritize projects that reduce backlog. As you know well, the safety, physical security, and critical infrastructure needs of the Capitol campus are a 24-hour-a-day operation that could simply not be accomplished without hard work. As I close my statement today, I would again like to thank the AOC staff for their professionalism and dedication to mission accomplishment. Chairman Valadao, Ranking Member Espiat, and members of the subcommittee, thank you again for your continued support and consideration of the Architect of the Capitol's fiscal year 2025 budget request.
Again, thank you to our witnesses for testifying before this committee today, and as the new subcommittee chairman, I look forward to learning more about both of your departments. I'll call on members based on seniority of those present when the hearing was called to order, alternating between majority and minority, and then we'll call on members in order of their arrival. Each will have 5 minutes, and so I'll start with myself. I now recognize myself. Dr. Hayden, how are the current economic conditions affecting the library's budget and your priorities for the subcommittee to consider?
The library's first priority is to be able to cover the inflationary costs, such as mandatory and price level increases, because preserving our staff and the experience that they have is our top priority. 85% of the library's requested increase this year is for inflation in pay and non-pay areas. And the increases in the programmatic areas support improving our digital strategy, ingesting the new digital collection flows that we see coming, as well as the exhibits that will be expanded as well.
Mr. DePietro, last year the AOC reported that Phase 4 of the Cannon Renewal Project would be completed by the end of calendar year 2024. Is this still accurate?
Yes, sir. We're tracking to complete floors 1 through 4 by the end of October. The contractor will be turning 24 member suites over to us then, and we'll be working with our partners in the House CAO to install the IT and the furniture and other equipment needed to support Congress.
So there will be offices available for next Congress's office moves.
That is correct.
Dr. Hayden, Congress has supported the library's modernization efforts, and the library has come a long way in modernizing its internal systems and closing GAO recommendations to address serious vulnerabilities in your IT infrastructure. What's the next highest priority in your investment?
This staff expertise, greatest resources, that is the highest priority, and then the next highest priorities involve the modernization efforts to provide that greater access. And so the digital collection processing request is at the top of our initiative request this year that will update and integrate a number of legacy standalone IT systems. And it will also help us improve our capacity for preserving and giving access to these digital collections. So those two, in terms of modernization, are our highest priorities.
All right, thank you. Mr. DePietro, I understand the AOC does not have a great reputation for cost estimating. What is the AOC doing to ensure future projects are properly scoped, avoid cost overruns, and end on time?
So I think a way to address the scope, the cost, and the schedule of projects is to follow a standard engineering and construction process. So typically what you do is you start a project with a study, and then you move from your study into a design phase. There's different elements of that design phase, and then you put the project out for bid, and you have a contractor construct the work for you. Sometimes what happens is at the end of the study phase, we tie a cost and a schedule to the project before we've fully done the design. I think that's a mistake to be doing that, and it's better to wait further into the design process to when the requirements are better defined, you have a better idea of the full scope of the project, and it could advise on the cost and the schedule. So following that normal industry practice, I think, would help us to help control the scope, the cost, the schedule of future projects.
What's the agency's biggest hurdle or challenge addressing the deferred maintenance? I mean, it's what, $2 billion deferred maintenance we're looking at, and what's the plan to overcome that?
So when you're looking at deferred maintenance, we talk about two elements of deferred maintenance. There's the deferred piece, which means it's maintenance that hasn't been done, it's become overdue. And then the second piece is capital renewal. That's maintenance that's going to be coming up within the next 5 years. And so that makes up your backlog. And the best way to address that is to perform facility condition assessments of your buildings on a regular basis. We do it every 4 or 5 years. And to look at that piece of how much backlog you're building up, and then be able to translate that into our budget request, indicating here's how much money we're going to need to maintain that facility over the next several years.
All right, thank you. And now I'm going to yield to the ranking member Espiat for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Valadeo. Mr. DePietro, Earth Day is Monday, April 22nd. I'm a huge advocate for our planet. In fact, I have the Earth Act bill, which is a very comprehensive bill that highlights the importance of environmental conservation and sustainability. To this end, we in Congress can be role models, right, within our own place of business. Can you provide the subcommittee with an update on the AOC recycling efforts, as well as any other AOC programs that aim to reduce our carbon footprint and protect our environment?
Okay, with respect to Earth Day, AOC is actually going to be doing a small program on Earth Day with our Capitol grounds and Arboretum jurisdiction. They're going to have a small event to recognize Earth Day and to be able to celebrate that. Sir, with respect to recycling, we recycle about 36% of the waste within the Capitol buildings. And then with respect to construction, we actually recycle 95% of the construction waste. So when we renovate a building, there's copper, there's concrete, all that, we try to recycle as much as that as we can. About 95% of that gets recycled.
Thank you. And as I mentioned during my opening remarks, there is a honorific plaque for U.S. Capitol Police that's like on hold. Could you give us a status on that?
Our Capitol building jurisdiction stands by. They're ready to support putting that plaque up once we're directed to be able to do that, sir.
So you haven't been directed, that's basically.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Dr. Hayden, I look forward to working with you on this year's series of activities and commend your efforts to work on the visitor center there and the other major initiatives, including the upgrade of your accessibility to your library material and the digitalization of the library and the critical infrastructure there. You know, where are we in terms of processing digital collections? Where are we now, and where do we stand in comparison, let's say, to other major libraries across the world in that department?
Well, due to the investment that Congress has made in the library's IT infrastructure in the past few years, we're well poised to continue developing the necessary infrastructure, and this year's request will give us that capacity to sunset legacy systems that were standalone systems, and now we'll be able to, with this year's request, be able to ingest things that are born digital. Years ago, for decades, the library has had the capacity to preserve documents and photos and film and all of these types of things that are waiting, quite a few of them, to be processed. The new digital volume that's coming in and will continue to come in requires that we put that infrastructure in place. And so we're well poised to do it, and that's why this request that we have for this year emphasizes getting ready for that. We see it expanding like a fire hose, as our chief information officer has said. And so we need to be ready to do it. We have a short window of time with manuscripts and papers and things. You have a longer period of time. They're waiting. This digital collecting, things that are born digital, you have a short window of time to capture them. So you have to have the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, to be able to get those things quickly and then get them out, and then keep developing that digital infrastructure. It's an exciting time. We're poised for it, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Espiat. Mr. LaTurner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Hayden, how do you feel the library's Visitor Center Experience Initiative will bring value to both the library and visiting taxpayers?
Oh, my goodness. Before the pandemic, the library's iconic Thomas Jefferson building, which is the front door to the three buildings that are on Capitol Hill with the Library of Congress, had over about 2 million visitors. And what the new visitor experience projects will allow people that are coming to that iconic building to have orientation to what is the Library of Congress, what can it do for them. For instance, the Veterans History Project, copyright, there'll be a special section on creativity, the history of the library for the first time, and I think I mentioned that in the opening, a permanent treasures gallery that will be able to rotate some of the items that are rarely on display. And we will have, for the first time, a dedicated youth center. So the young and the young at heart will be able to learn about research and using the library's collection. So it's going to greatly expand the public's understanding of what the Library of Congress does and what it can do for them.
The ranking member's question sparked my interest. He mentioned the libraries around the world. What libraries around the world do you look to, or do you learn things from that are doing things maybe unique from us?
Well, we have two major libraries that are comparable in terms of a national library, the British Library in London and the Bibliothèque Nationale. Those two have, the Bibliothèque Nationale, for instance, just opened a treasures gallery. We were a little jealous. It's pretty good. But we are using the same, for instance, the cabinetry, the cases are going to be the same. They're top of the line, Gopian. They use Ferrari parts in the things. The British Library also has a treasures gallery and a very robust retail aspect in terms of their shop, similar to a museum shop. So those in terms of national libraries. Of course, we look to some of the major university libraries that are doing innovative things. Quite a few of them are really upping their IT game in terms of what their online presence is too.
Thank you. Mr. Pietro, a portion of your budget justification covers the need to prioritize physical security infrastructure. Tell me about what it looks like, the collaboration with Capitol Police and Sergeant of Arms, and can you provide the committee with rough estimates for the cost of these projects?
So we work very closely with the House and Senate Sergeant at Arms and the Capitol Police on all of the physical security projects. They determine the requirements, but we support them on the build-out of that infrastructure to make sure that it meets their needs. With respect to the cost, I would have to get back to you on those.
Okay, I look forward to that. It was mentioned earlier with the chairman, the Canon renewal project. What is the total time from start to finish, and what is the rough cost from start to finish of that entire project? I just don't know the answer to that.
I can tell you the cost. The cost is around $970 million total. The schedule for it, the complete cost, or complete time it's taken from when we started the studies to when we'll finish out the last element of that, the courtyard. I'd have to get back with you on.
When did it start? When did the study start?
That's 9 or 10 years ago, but I'd have to get the specific dates for you on that, so to be more accurate.
I'd look forward to knowing that. The chairman also asked a question. You talked about the study, design, bid, and then build process. You outlined the best practices for that and how you can improve the accuracy of estimates. Is that being implemented? And if so, when can we expect that change, to see that change?
So that's normally implemented on most projects. Sometimes projects get pushed a little bit faster. I think there's a desire to get things done a little bit more quickly. And sometimes not that we skip steps in the process, but we lock into what we believe the cost will be and what the schedule will be very early in that process. And then I think that leads to disappointment later on when it appears that the cost has grown, that it's taken longer to complete a project.
Sure. Okay, thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Latour. Mr. Quickly, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, upon the ranking member's question about being ready to mount the plaque honoring the police, just for the record, who gives you that direction to actually do the mounting?
I'd have to get specifically which committee gives us that, sir. I don't have that information here, but.
It's not leadership, it's a committee that does that?
I believe so, but I'd have to get back to you on that.
I mean, to your knowledge, was there any communication request asking for it, or they bring the direction to you?
They coordinate with our Legislative and Public Affairs Office on that issue.
Could you find that out and report back to myself and the committee, please?
Certainly.
And we certainly heard a lot about Canon this morning. and I appreciate that, but since my office is in Rayburn, we're curious what the plans are for Rayburn in the coming years. Yeah.
So we're looking at doing a renewal of the Rayburn building as well. And we want to follow that process that I outlined before, where we start with the study phase. We're looking to reprogram some funding to support looking at a swing space study, because Rayburn is large. And how we phase that work is really going to play into how long it takes and how much it costs to be able to do that.
But the general plan is to do what you did in Canton, and that's basically,
Yes,
Round
the
up.
building's at the age where it requires a renewal, correct?
and when you talk about a swing, you mean that it's shifting a certain amount of office space someplace else.
Exactly, to another location so that the members can continue their work while we're able to renew or modernize a portion of that building.
And what kinds of places would that be for Rayburn?
So that's one of the things that have the study take a look at, how we would be able to accommodate that. Since Rayburn is so much larger than Canton, that's the first phase of the project, is that study is to look and say, how would we go about doing that?
Thank you. Dr. Hayden, it's a pleasure to see you here today. Go Roosevelt. I want to follow up. In a hearing we had last week, I talked to the GPO director, Mr. Halpern, about the implementation of access to congressionally mandated reports. A bill I was proud to sponsor, had bipartisan support. We reported that GPO has set up an online portal for congressionally mandated reports that now has about 300 of those reports for public viewing, transparency, openness in government. We create a lot of these reports and they collect dust. The idea is to share them with the American public, what we're up to, but they also include a lot of vital information. Does the Library of Congress list of reports link the reports on the GPO portal yet? And how could the library and GPO collaborate to link the LOC's listings of executive communications to the GPO documents?
And we're very fortunate to have the acting director of CRS here, Robert Newland, who's been doing quite a bit and who could give.
Thank you. So many of those reports are currently available. In fact, I believe over 10,000 on our crs.gov website. Right now, and I'm glad you brought this up, we're in the process of doing an update of crs.gov to improve accessibility. Someone asked earlier about what we're doing in terms of accessibility. We've already completed that phase on our website, and we hope to implement it within later this year, probably in the fall.
Great. Let us know how we can help and move forward, and let us know how that's proceeding. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. And if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank Dr. Hayden and Mr. DePietro for being here today. Members may submit any additional questions for the record, and the subcommittee stands adjourned.